Yo, what's up, dudes? Chad Cacus here. Dude, thank you guys so much for stopping by. And today we are going to be going over the Destiny 2 community theory that an exotic hammer heavy melee weapon is being added to the game in the near future. And so, let's get started. Now, I have heard shades of this theory for a while, but resident legend Paul Tassi wrote an article on Forbes really detailing this theory and a lot of the evidence held within. And I saw it and thought, you know what, I'm going to make a video on this because it's a really interesting topic that I'm starting to believe, and I also have a few very interesting things to add to this theory that he forgot about. Alright. Now, what exactly is this theory, the exotic hammer theory? Well, importantly, it's not just that Bungie should add an exotic hammer because it would be cool, and by the way, it would be, but there is a certain hammer that's playing a very big part in all Destiny 2 players' lives right now during Season of the Chosen, and that is the Hammer of Proving. You are taking a look at this hammer and utilizing it all the time when you are doing the new Battlegrounds activity, and we get a really good look at this hammer. Like, it doesn't just sit in our inventory, we have a whole screen dedicated to upgrading it, and we can very clearly see this isn't just a hammer, this is a war hammer. This is an instrument of destruction, and it's again what we use during Battlegrounds to open the chests. But that in and of itself is a little bit weird if you think about it. Why are we opening chests by smashing them like madmen, right? Like, isn't there a key? Shouldn't there be like a ruin or a key or something to just open the tribute chest instead of using a warhammer to smash them open? By the way, it looks very cool, and maybe that's why Bungie did it. But there's something else going on during the whole smashing part. You actually switch into third person. Like, you don't just open this chest. Every other chest in Destiny 2 kind of magically opens in front of you after you interact with it. But here, we actually see you go into third person, use the hammer, and smash it just like you would smash an enemy if an exotic hammer was added to the game. And that is the crux of this theory. It's that the Hammer of Proving that we're all using right now will eventually become an actual weapon after we're done upgrading it during the end, or potentially after this season. We can actually use the Hammer of Proving as a physical weapon within the game rather than just having it sit in our quest tab. Now, with all of that being said, you may be thinking, well, that's cool and all, but how likely is it really? However, there is some evidence that Bungie is potentially looking at adding additional types of melee weapons to Destiny 2. One of the main pieces of evidence is during the whole 3-peaking debacle. Now, 3-peaking, for those who may not know, is for certain game modes, especially Trials of Osiris, players will utilize swords not to kill opponents, but so that they can take them out to go into third person to see around corners, giving them an advantage. Now, of course, this slowed down the game mode. A lot of people hate this, and in addressing this issue, Cosmo, community manager, said, "The team is aware of the feedback around 3-peaking and currently discussing possible options. No promises, as we are still investigating what changes are viable, since it's a complicated issue that affects both emotes, swords, and any potential future third-person weapons." Alright, now adding that additional line is really interesting because it was not necessary in the slightest. Like, you could just say, hey, it's a complicated issue, emotes and swords are both affected by it. You drop in the line that we also maybe have some potential third-person weapons coming to the game. And this was actually doubled down upon by Joe Blackburn in the massive developer update, The Road to the Witch Queen, when he actually did say that in the competitive game modes, emotes will be disabled and players will be unable to pull out any third-person weapon that doesn't have ammo. And again, it's that terminology, any third-person weapon, not just swords. If they would have said swords, none of us would have batted an eye, right? But they keep saying third-person weapon. And very interestingly, the timing would be perfect because only recently Bungie has begun experimenting with new types of melee weapons in the form of new sword archetypes. Only very recently with Season of Arrivals, right? We had really no innovation in terms of swords for years, and then with Season of Arrivals, we get vortex frames, so we have the falling guillotine, and then we also get caster frames, and for example, the new Trials sword falls into that archetype. So that is Bungie actually exploring design space involving melee weapons, and vortex frames and caster frame swords, they behave completely differently than the swords we've traditionally had in Destiny 2. And I don't think that's coincidental. Bungie realized that, hey, if we're going to be adding new gun types, it doesn't just need to be actual guns, it can be melee weapons as well. However, speaking of swords and sword archetypes, what if I told you guys that almost everything needed to create a new Warhammer melee weapon in Destiny 2 was already in the game? Sounds crazy, but it's actually true. Because if I can recall you guys back to that animation when you use the Hammer of Proving to smash open a Cabal ritual chest in the Battlegrounds activity, I saw that and I thought, wait a minute, I've seen this somewhere before. It looks a lot like this animation right here. Now, some of you may be thinking, wait, what did you just do? What the heck is that animation? Well, it actually comes from a very rare, and in fact getting more rare every day, legendary sword from Destiny 2's past, the Throne Cleaver. Now, if you look, this is an aggressive frame sword. This is something you don't often see because this is actually one of two that ever came into Destiny 2. There are two aggressive frame swords, the Throne Cleaver and the weapon that this is a remake of, the Crown Splitter. Now, both of these swords are actually only usable on a Titan. So 66% of players can't even use them, or at least they got them on their Titan and then vaulted them or whatever. And also, both of these weapons are very far sunset, and both of them are not acquirable anymore. The Crown Splitter comes from beating the normal Destiny 2 campaign, the Red War, not here anymore on a Titan, and then the Throne Cleaver comes from the Menagerie, again, not here anymore. But despite these two weapons being extremely unique and not even acquirable anymore, they have some incredibly unique characteristics. The aggressive frame swords have not only unique stats, doing more impact than any other sword, but also completely unique animations. As you can see, if you do a light attack with the Throne Cleaver, you're going to sweep along the ground, and this motion often results in multi-kills for a simple light attack, but they're a lot slower than attacking with any other sword archetype. Not only that, but the heavy attack again has that unique animation that's so similar to smashing open those tribute chests. And so, the result of all of this is the fact that you have these unique melee animations built into the game and working in the game right now for two swords that most people don't have and no one can get anymore. Why not just reskin them as a Warhammer? Make an Exotic Warhammer, use those same animations already in the game, already working fine. By the way, when you use something like the Throne Cleaver, it doesn't feel like you're using a traditional sword. If it was a Warhammer, I wouldn't bat an eye. It would make total sense to use a Warhammer like that. And then the majority of Destiny 2 players who didn't even necessarily experience these weapons and certainly don't use them anymore have that feeling of a brand new type of melee weapon entering the game. Everyone's happy. Simply add on an exotic perk and you've got yourself a home run. And so looking at the evidence, I would say it is absolutely possible that we do see an Exotic Warhammer hitting Destiny 2. But when? I'm actually going to disagree with the popular theory that it's going to be kind of a surprise during Season of the Chosen. I think it would make perfect sense in the next season, Season 14, after we finish with the Hammer of Proving that we have utilized during this entire season, wouldn't it make sense for the Season 14 featured exotic, perhaps even the Seasons Pass exotic, to be this Exotic Warhammer? And everyone would go, hey, that's the Hammer of Proving from last season, because Bungie usually only adds 2 new exotics every single smaller season. And so again, I think it's more likely to get this weapon added next season and be one of those 2 rather than a third surprise one this season. But what do you guys think? Do you think we will see an exotic hammer hit the game? And do you think Bungie will repurpose those aggressive frame sword animations into Warhammers? I certainly hope so, guys. That is it for the video. Again, I hope you enjoyed it, found it informative, and if you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That's linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.